Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Defleshed, Grind Over Matter, on October 28th on Metal Blade Records. The album has 11 tracks, 34 minutes in length, and this is the band's 6th full-length studio record. They are a Swedish thrash death metal band. Now, it's been 17 years since their last record, and they came together to release an album that's absolute aggression and destruction across all 11 songs. This album has no pauses, no breaks. If you're looking for a ballad, this is not the record for you. This album is a 24-ounce steak. It's just thick, meaty, and juicy. Think about this album as you would look at a mosh pit. You're gonna go in there, you know you're gonna get bounced around, you're gonna have a great time. But at the end of that first song, you're not ready to go home. You're ready to experience all over again in the next track, throughout the entire set list. This album is designed like that. It has the perfect length for the aggression that it holds. When you have a record that has this sort of unrelentless aggression, this movement, this fluid movement from one song to another, and the brutality never really pauses and never really breaks, you don't want the album to go too long, because you start to dilute the quality of the record and the album starts to overburden the listener. It becomes too much to take in one sitting. Being 34 minutes in length allows you to better experience the record, adding playability to the overall design of the album and making you feel a lot more comfortable in the experience of listening to this record from start all the way to the end. It's an album that feels fresh every single time you listen to it. As far as the sound is concerned, the album is very violent, is very aggressive, is very brutal, unrelentlessly from start to finish. But it brings in different elements that allow the experience to be a little bit easier to process for the listener. You're not bogged down by all of these things that you don't need. It's a record that brings the old school style of the band as far as their sound is concerned, bringing elements of obviously thrash metal, death metal, grindcore as well, but also with a little bit more of a modern production behind it. So the album has quality of sound, quality of experience. That quality of sound and quality of experience doesn't take anything away from the brutality of the album, and the brutality of the album doesn't muddy the waters and doesn't make this album hard to listen to. So the two come together perfectly in order to give you the perfect experience as far as what the band wants to deliver. You can look at the sound of the drums and the sound of the guitars as the two catalysts behind the entire experience. The thick wall of sound that this album provides is created predominantly by those two elements that work really well separated from one another, but when they come together, it's very hard to break them apart. The drums on this record have an incredible oomph to them. They have substance, they have texture, they fill the room, they have warmth as well. And this is important because it allows the drums to have a powerful role in the sound, in that wall of sound, but never really overtake anything else. Even in the songs or the moments within songs where the drums are just blasting in your face, where they're switching from being a passenger to being the driver, even in those moments, you can still appreciate everything else around them. You just get to appreciate them a little bit better because they've moved from the shadows a little bit into the light. And that creates some dynamic in a record that otherwise, sound-wise, feels very linear from start to finish. Now, the guitars have the same sort of role as the drums do, but they are a little bit more consistently the driver behind the experience on every single track. They're really the motor, they're not just the driver. They're pushing you forward with every single song, helping to find that wall of sound, but at the same time pouring some fuel into the fire so that you can move a little bit quicker, creating great tempos, creating great energy, and adding movement to the overall experience, adding movement to that uninterrupted experience that this album gives. Now, the vocals coming on top become a little bit of the element that defines the aggression and becomes also a little bit of the element that carries you or holds your hand song in and song out. Because this album has a very distinct sound approach, and that's going to be predominantly what you're going to connect with at least the first time going around. But the way the vocals come across, the way they interact with that brutality of sound becomes the perfect partnership in order for you to have an album that doesn't lose itself within itself. Now, this record is 34 minutes of balls to the wall, headbanging, and circle pit. If you're looking for an album that has brutality, consistently brutality from start to finish, with no pauses, no breaks, no interludes, no unnecessary garbage to take away from the experience of listening to 34 minutes of just headbanging, blasting bangers in your head, this album is definitely for you. It's a quick fix, 34 minutes, and it's an album that leaves you with a lasting impression of what this band can do going forward. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with One Grave to Fit Them All. I love the name of the track, and I love the track. That has that thick sound, that wall of sound that's pretty much a common denominator throughout the entire record. You're going to find it on this song as well. The sound of guitars and drums really work well with one another, adding intensity to the overall brutality that it has. But you also have some ebbs and flows within this track, and the ebbs and flows come in the verses and chorus and how the song moves from one into the next. This allows the track to be a lot more dynamic, to give you a dynamic experience, if you will, and not be as linear from start to finish. It also makes the song feel heavier. It gives it more substance, and the drums on this track are absolutely phenomenal. They help rip through the song, and while you have most of the songs depending on the guitars to push you through, I actually felt that on this song the drums were the ones pushing you forward. Next you have Blood Well Spent. This song grinds you. This song really feels like a meat grinder, a track that has perhaps a little bit of a riptide effect to it, where you're just sinking into it, you're getting pulled into that vortex, you're getting pulled into that middle vortex of the track, and you're just losing yourself in it. It has a great sound, the guitars really drive the experience, and they complement how relentless the drums are on the background. This helps give some direction, and the vocals then define much better what that direction is all about. Last but not least, Last Nail in the Coffin, which is also the closing track of this record. This song has a little bit more grooviness to it. Not a lot, but a little bit more as far as the guitar sound is concerned. It doesn't lose anything as far as heaviness or aggression goes. This song still feels very brutal all around. The drums have two volumes, 10 and 11, and the guitars complement that experience really well, adding a little bit of groove, so it makes the overall song a little bit easier to process, a little bit easier to digest, so that they're not bogging it down with too much texture, making the track overly thick, and that would also make the song perhaps a little bit boring. So allowing the guitars to infuse a little bit more of a thin layer cutting through the thickness that the drums are offering is the perfect balance for a track that's an absolute banger. And it's also very hooky, and it's very hooky because of how memorable the chorus is, also how simple it comes across. Easy to remember, easy to sing along. This is perhaps a banger sing-along if I've ever seen one. This is it, Defleshed with Grind Over Matter, out October 28th on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.